Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. Sharing her experiences, wisdom, and insights with us today on the show is a woman who is, quite honestly, one of the main influences in my life that has allowed me to take my power back with regards to my emotional state of being and gain much more awareness around my plant medicine journeys as a whole. She is an expert in the fields of trauma, inner child healing, and inner work as a whole. And additionally, she is the founder and owner of Training Camp for the Soul, a company whose mission it is to allow people to find the roots of their limiting beliefs, remove them, and insert beliefs which are dream and life affirmative in nature. It is my mission on this show to have people on who can speak to the importance of the self-work in the scope of plant medicines as, speaking from personal experience, the increase in benefits one can receive when they fully understand the scope of their emotions and their mental patterns from plant medicines can be life-altering in extremely empowering ways. With that all being said, I am so excited to be welcoming the one, the only, Anat Peri to the show. Anat, how are you doing?
Great. Yeah. It's been a busy 7 days, and today feels like I'm landing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go lay out by the pool when we're done with this call. So living into that.
Yes, that's beautiful. And for everyone listening, Anat and I were both just at Mark England's lake house, and now I am here. So it's kind of like deja vu. You know, you have the same background that you had a couple of days ago with me. And it's so fun. We got to do Highly Optimized the other day, and now we're hopping on to go farther down the rabbit hole with this. And yeah, I'm so excited to have you on to share your journey with the listeners and all of your amazing insights, because there are so many amazing insights you have and experiences and wisdom you have around the other aspects that I feel are not talked about enough in plant medicines. And so I'd love if we could start by having you bring us through how you were first introduced to plant medicines and how that may have shifted to how you look at them now.
Yeah. Well, my first experience with plant medicines was when I was a teenager in college. But that was all recreational fun. And I imagine planted some seeds that then germinated and grew. And so really my plant medicine journey started August 2013. So yeah, going on 8 years now. And that experience was with ayahuasca. At that point, I had done about 8 years of self-development work. So had a lot of awareness and some tools, but most of that work was cognitive, was mindset work. And mindset work is important. It absolutely is, and language work and all that. But it was missing the connection to the body and the brilliance of our body and how our body can really support our healing journey. First of all, I went into it blindly. I was at a potluck dinner. And my friend there was like, "What are you doing tomorrow? Like this weekend?" I'm like, "I don't have plans. Like my shaman is coming into town and we're going to do some ceremonies. Ayahuasca." I'm like, what? What is that? And I don't recall that he told me much. I was just at a place in my life that I was very surrendered, and I heard the word ceremony, and I trusted him, and I was like, sure, I'm open to a ceremonial experience. And so that's how blindly I was introduced to Aya. And my first ceremony was my first experience of being in my body. I did not know how much I lived in my head and was disconnected from my body, unaware of my nervous system and the heightened state that I was living in that sympathetic state. And so my whole first journey, I was a fish out of water. I was just shaking. My whole body was tremoring. And what I know now about the body tremors is that It's a very common form of release. All animals, all mammals in nature do it. If you guys have a dog, you've seen your dog shake all the time. We've just learned with our minds to turn it off, to judge it, to think that if I'm shaking, there's something wrong. And it's actually your nervous system downregulating back into a parasympathetic state. And it's tension being released. It's traumas resurfacing that have been stored in our cellular memory. And so, I was just a fish out of water, just shaking from head to toe the whole time uncontrollably, and at the same time having the most divine, beautiful psychedelic visuals. Which I've seen before when I did LSD and mushrooms in my younger years. So it was a nice combination. It was a great introduction. I feel like Aya welcomed me in with, milk and cookies. Like, oh, you're safe. Come on in. And had me so intrigued. I felt so calm the next day that they were doing 2 nights in a row. And I said, okay, I'll stay for a second night. And this time, Aya did not make me with milk and cookies. It was like, okay, now you're ready. And at the time, I was very aware of unresolved traumas. And when I say trauma, I want to define it for you as experiences that I didn't have the capacity to be with. So something that I experienced that I didn't know how to process it. And it's traumas around my father. And my father was just busy working all the time, running a hotel. So he didn't spend enough time with little Anat. And we really do depend on our fathers to role model love, connection for us, spend that quality time with us. They are our source of love that's outside of us. That is what they model. Mom is the self-love. Love that you experienced in the womb and didn't know that it wasn't you. But your first experience of love, of something outside of you loving you is dad. And so there's like, he's your channel for that. He's your source for that. And so to not have daddy spend time with me was to not have love be there, to not feel that connection to others in the world. And I became aware of that and did not have the tools to know what to do with it. It was like, oh, okay, so I know that I didn't have enough loving moments with my dad in my life. So going into the second ceremony, all of that came up. Because like I said, to me, actually, I didn't say this, but I'll define what I feel the experience of ayahuasca is, and I imagine a lot of plant medicines, is they have the ability to create a safety for us and downregulate our nervous system enough where we can harbor back in our bodies and feel and reconnect to the cellular memory that's there. So I had memories emerge that were locked up. I had feelings of grief and sadness and heartbreak around daddy's not around, daddy's love is not here, that resurfaced that I could access due to the plant medicine. And so I shook, I cried, I purged from every end. I felt my little girl's heartbreak, and it was very profound, very powerful to experience that. And I also had memories of my younger years in school and kindergarten and all the way up to high school, and all the times that I didn't feel loved by others, that I felt I was made fun of, definitely picked on my name, and I was just this, outsider, and just really wanted connection to others. And so the power of the medicine definitely moved a lot of that stagnant energy. And emotions are energy in motion, right? So I finally got to feel and express what I didn't have the capacity to do. And that's why it became a trauma. I didn't have the capacity to fully express it and integrate it. And so it was a powerful session. I came out of it and I thought I was healed. I thought I just dealt with my daddy issues. I'm good. And I want more of this. And this particular shaman, who was part of the Diamese church, so it was legal for him to administer this in the state of California. Those wondering, like, did you go to Peru or something? No, I was right in North County, San Diego. He came back every 2 months. So 2 months later, I was like, I was addicted, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want more. What more can this medicine heal for me? And my second night, the 2 nights in a row again, this man walked into the room and I was like, who's that? Long story short, he and I started dating. And so say Aya led me to my healing, and I'll share more of that. So we went through the honeymoon stage and all that. And then, 3 months in, all daddy stuff resurfaces. And it is a hard reality to be with because I just totally thought that I handled it and that I've done so much work. And what the fuck? And it was, and it's like now I had more of a connection to my body. And so there was just so much pain that he was triggering for me. So much body pain, so much sadness, so much of the like, I don't want this feeling. And so it led me down the path of my best friend at the time was working with this body mind psychologist. And she's like, I highly recommend that the two of you go work with him. And I was like, I love this man. I'll do anything. And she had done similar work that I have. She hadn't done plant medicine, but she'd been down the transformational journey like me of doing mindset, cognitive work. And she was like, Anat, this is deeper. This is different. And knowing like the experience that I had of being in my body with ayahuasca, when she said like a body mind psychologist, I was like, I'm curious here. Okay. And so I started working with him, and it was all about saving my relationship. And nothing wrong with that. Sometimes what drives us to, to do what we need to do, what the catalyst is someone in our life. And it was the perfect storm, the perfect experience, because as I was working with this therapist, going in once a week and uncovering what I learned in childhood and how that created the script of my life, the beliefs that I had. As I was doing that, this relationship kept obviously bringing up more of that stuff. It was just a catalyst constantly, until I edited that part of my script out. So to tie this back into daddy experiences with dad, what I realized was there were beliefs that were formed from that experience with dad. Beliefs like, you don't matter, you're invisible, others are more important than you. And even though I moved through the emotions with ayahuasca, I didn't know that I had to change those beliefs. I didn't know that those were the beliefs that were there from it. And so therefore I didn't. So if you don't change your beliefs, if you don't edit the script, your role is going to stay the same. And the people you cast in your movie is going to stay the same. That's why I'm still drawn to the same type of guy. And that's why I still experience the same experiences, the same cycle. Here we go again, same pain.
Deja vu.
And yeah, and so I realized that it's not enough to just do plant medicine. You have to become aware yourself, consciously aware. You have to do the work. Only then can you edit the script and start to behave differently so that you're not attracting it anymore. And so that period of time of working with this therapist was pivotal. And I experienced transformation for the first time. Like, I really got that transformation is not a walk in the park on a sunny San Diego day, that it's a walk through a burning forest and there's a dragon to slay. Meaning there was so much to feel. And yeah, I felt that stuff under ayahuasca. But can I allow myself to feel that without the plant?
Yes.
And tap into my body's ability to heal itself. And I had experiences that were just like when I was on ayahuasca. And I realized in that moment, oh, my body's the healer. Like, our bodies are fucking brilliant. I mean, think about how your mom gets pregnant with you and she's not giving it much thought other than to making sure she eats enough and doesn't, drink or smoke, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And 9 months later, there you are, popping out with everything intact, hopefully. Your fucking body did that.
Yeah.
Without your mom thinking about it. And when we cut ourselves or we burn our finger, it's not the Band-Aid or the ointment that's doing the healing.
Or the thinking of it.
I believe there's a strong sensation there that we label as ouch, as pain. And we put the ointment or we ice it so that we don't have to feel that sensation. But I believe the reason that there is that type of strong sensation is because that's how we were designed and built, so that it's a signal. It is a strong signal to the brain, to the rest of the body of like 911. This area needs our attention right now. And the healing begins. So when it comes to our emotional baggage and the traumas that we experienced and the parts that we never knew how to deal with that are stored in our cellular memory, we've learned to override it with our mind, to compartmentalize it, to logic our way out of it. Oh, I logicked the hell out of my whole thing with my dad when I first had the realization. I was like, oh, but like, daddy's wonderful. He does love me. And he was doing what he needed to do for the family. And so and then I thought I could just build that type of relationship with him now. Like, I totally trimmed that weed and it fucking grew back. So getting to know my body, and that like when you connect with an experience, an emotion that's there, and you allow yourself to be with it, just like under the plant medicine, there's no wanting to escape. There's just like, the psychedelic visuals occupying your mind while your body is bringing up some memories, and like it or not, you're purging.
Yes.
But to then learn how to do that without the plant was so empowering and so powerful. And I realized that I'm the healer. And that's what I want listeners to get. You're the healer.
Yes.
Plant medicines don't heal you. They are a tool in the healer's tool belt. I've had clients that have worked with psychedelics and then done the conscious deep work and then gone back to exploring psychedelics, and their ability to work with that tool, with that medicine, is so much deeper, and they're able to get it, integrate, and move on. And so I'm not against psychedelics. I love them. I just feel that people need to get to know themselves as the healer, and then use these tools instead of what I see all the time is people are like, oh my God, I'm going to go do this because it's going to heal me. And I've met people that have done plant medicine, 50, 60, 100 times, and life doesn't look any different. They're chasing it, and they're having a great experience, as I did every single time. But is it being integrated?
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to take a quick moment to let you all know that the doors are officially open for the Conscious Cannabis Collective. And as such, this is the last week you can sign up and receive all of the bonuses we're currently including. This is the last time I will be personally onboarding those of you who sign up with a complimentary one-on-one session, and you'll have the ability to get the Grow with Cannabis course for free during this limited time. For more info on how you can take advantage of this offer, head down to the show notes for this episode and secure your spot today, as we only have so many spots left and they are filling up quickly. Now back to the show. Yes. Yeah, that's what you said last there. Is it being integrated, right? And I wrote some notes and, going back to TRE, right? I remember the first time I went through that for tension and trauma release exercise, if I remember correctly what it stands for anyone listening.
Correct.
And I remember the first time I went through it at training camp, right? And this is completely sober for everyone listening, like 100% sober, no coffee, nothing, right? It was at night too. So it was like nothing in me. And so we go through the stretches and we start doing it. And I realized I'm like, oh, and with yawning, right? With understanding what yawning was, that was another one where those two things allowed me to realize, oh, that makes a lot more sense now why I always experience these things when I'm on mushrooms or on LSD, right? It's like this is actually a natural process. And you spoke so beautifully about how the body is autonomous, right? Like it's doing its thing without us having to know how it works or why it works. It simply works. And the challenge, like you said, is when we allow the mind to get in the way. We allow our intellectualism, aka say the screwdriver, to be the hammer. And that is ultra funny to me because I have done that through so many of my psychedelic journeys and paid a price, not the price, but paid a price for that, right? And those experiences have been extremely beneficial. Yet at the same time, I'm very excited to be able to know the tools now so that if that does happen, I know how to handle that situation, right? And, I'm curious for you, with the rise in popularity right now happening around psychedelics, with what you were just talking about, with people not knowing about the work, let alone doing it in many cases, what are some of the potential benefits and risks you see happening with psychedelic rise in popularity?
Yeah, good question. So the benefit I see is bringing people to an awareness of something that they didn't even know was there, whether it's like a stored memory. Oh, shoot, I didn't even know I still had that. So I think it's a great gate opener. And also, like I said, for me, it was an experience of being in my body and my nervous system being able to, for the first time, downregulate. So many people aren't aware that they are literally functioning all day long in a heightened state, in fight or flight. And that's become their norm. And they drink coffee and keep staying up at that norm.
Yes.
Anytime, I think I'm getting tired. You're not getting tired. Your nervous system is trying to downregulate.
Yeah, you're overstimulated to begin with.
Yeah. And I've had clients that have done the TRE and downregulated their nervous system and then went to drink a cup of coffee and were like, whoa, this is too much. It's too overstimulating. And some people could still handle coffee, so all good there. So so those are the benefits I see is if someone, and to this day, even after you do the inner work yourself, using the benefits of using plant medicine to access something in your unconscious, in your cellular memory, that as much as you may have awareness and be diving yourself, it is still hidden from you. And you really need to be brought into the unconscious state in order to then see that and work with it. So that's the benefits. Yeah. The downside is when you think that whatever you experience under it is enough, and that it's been integrated into your consciousness and your nervous system and you're good. Building our capacity, our nervous system's capacity to hold more. And what I mean by that, to hold the experience that we label as pain or grief or sadness, because usually we want to run from those. We don't want to sit in that and see that we're not going to die.
Yeah.
We could be with it.
Yeah.
but it's not scary. It actually is very freeing. We get robbed of that. It's the plant is forcing you there and giving you that for a moment, but you're not actually doing it. It's like the difference between riding a bike where you're the one pedaling
Balancing.
and and balancing, and getting on a motorbike. Oh, I've never used this metaphor before. I like it. And getting
Yes.
on a motorbike and thinking that you learned how to ride a bike by getting on a motorbike. So imagine if you've never ridden a bike before and I put you on a motorbike and I'm like, cool, you just learned how to ride. Now you get on that bicycle and you fall over because you didn't.
Yes.
You
You
didn't.
still don't know how to pedal. You still don't know about going up hills versus down hills. There's so many differences.
Yeah, and balancing it, right? Because there isn't that force that is supporting it. And so to me, that's the downside of people doing it. And then you get hooked on it because there is a euphoric experience or high or an aha moment or an energetic release, which all feel great and shift your state. But again, if you're not consciously aware of what you're working with and you're not able to expand your nervous system's capacity, then you're just going to revert back a day later, a few days later. It's all going to start to come back in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel like, oh, I need to do it again. That's all. I need a bigger dose this time.
More must equal better. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the downside.
Yeah. And that's a scary thing to see happen with things like psychedelics, right? The whole more equals better thing. I mean, I believe it's scary with any intoxicant, right? But especially when you're messing with your lease on reality and you're going into it, especially thinking I need more. In my experience, when I've done that, I've got bit, right? And what I mean by bit is just I've been launched into an experience that has mirrored the energy behind that thought, which is normally anxiety, nervousness, feeling not enough, all of these things. And I know you mentioned beliefs before and, self-beliefs. And this is one of the very interesting things that I learned at training camp, right? Was I imagined at first that limiting beliefs I had would have been said directly to me. Someone would have said it to me and then I would have taken it in. And the funny thing that I've realized, and for anyone listening who might be like me and saying, my parents are really good. My parents were awesome, right? Like they were great. And that was what made the exercises so challenging sometimes because I was trying to dig for it. But what I realized was in most cases, it's not going to be something said directly to you. It's going to be a vibe you felt or something like that where then you adopted a belief, right? And it's all unconscious, like you were saying. So being able to interact with psychedelics in a way that allows you to realize, okay, this is like, I realize something is going on. This is how I interact with them now. I realize something is going on. Maybe I'm reacting or getting agitated at my partner. Something's there, yet I don't know what it is. So I'm going to create an intention around this use or this session to say, hey, I want to see what's there. And then you create that awareness. And the beauty of having the tools after is that awareness can then go from acceptance and into surrender. Because the more you gain awareness, the more frustrated you can get, right? Because it's spinning your wheels at the start line.
Like you have, it's like seeing that you thought you only had an acre to mow the lawn, and then you find out you have 5 acres, and you're like, oh, great, more weeds to whack here.
Yeah, and you're simply sitting on the lawnmower wondering when you should start, like that, and it just keeps expanding and expanding, and you're like, this is fine. I'm fine, right?
Yeah,
and
I'm better off not knowing.
Yeah, there is bliss in ignorance, right? Like I really do understand that now, having jumped into all of this work, right? And for anyone listening, I mean, the other side is totally worth it, right? But I realize, just like you were saying, Anat, how much challenge you can find, or one can find rather, in the noticing or the awareness around, okay, I'm interacting with these medicines. I'm seeing all the answers, but I don't know how to apply them any better than when I first went in. Yeah. And that is so frustrating.
And even if you do, it's not only knowing it with your mind.
Yes.
It's literally building your nervous system's resiliency, capacity to hold it. And what I mean, I want to say more about that. When you think about doing something or being on the edge of something, and your heart starts pounding really fast, or your mind tells you, like, what if it all goes wrong, and da da da. It's the combination of both that then has you say, like, it's too much. It's too much. Like, my heart may burst out of my chest if I actually do this.
Overwhelmed city.
And yeah, overwhelmed city. And so building that ability, and we've all experienced that when, the first time you do something new, there's like butterflies there's unease, like, oh my God, the first 3 to 5 podcasts that I was ever interviewed on, I used to shake. I would shake because it was so new for me and scary. But again, because I have tools and practices, my body knew that on the spot, live, while doing the podcast, it could release the fight flight and expand and be able to show up on calls. I don't tremor anymore on podcasts. Someone gets on stage the first time, or anything like that. So we've all experienced ourselves being able to handle more.
Yes. And what I love about what you're saying is a concept I heard that I love, which is the concept of a PEAK, peak experience, right? This amazing plant medicine experience that shows you so much and all of this awareness is gained, versus a PEEK experience, where you actually are able to, with doing the work or with doing whatever allows you to start taking some of that back. You then have a moment, maybe in meditation, maybe on a call, where you realize I'm not tremoring anymore, right? Where you start to have a PEEK experience, which is experiencing something you felt on plant medicines without the addition of plant medicines. So you start to become integrated, right? And I feel like you were talking about so many, including myself for many years, we're going from PEAK experience to PEAK experience. Really, it's like taking 10 classes at once. And as soon as you finish one, taking another one to keep it at 10 the whole time. Like, how much of that information will you retain? And so that's like, I love that we're talking about that. And, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, in your own journey and with your clients that also interact with plant medicines, what have you found to be some of the most powerful tools for you, for your clients, that someone listening might be able to look more into, to say if they, are not ready for training camp or to go full in, they could look up and start to get a little bit of that PEEK experience in their life?
Breath work, for sure. Breath work. I mean, breath is prana. It's our connection to our soul. It's our life force, energy. So it doesn't have to be Wim Hof. It doesn't have to be intense. Just conscious breathing. I just took a conscious breath right now. Like, because we're always breathing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But to pause for a sec and actually turn your focus to your breath, to your lungs, to your body.
Yeah, that is so powerful.
Because what it does is you have to be present to your body. So this is something that everyone can do. There's no excuse of I don't have time for that. If you're living, you're breathing, you get time to pause and say, you know what, I'm going to take 5 intentional deep breaths.
It'll take less time than the average Instagram check.
Exactly. And then you start to expand on that. Like, I have learned to slow my speech down, because I practice speaking a lot from when I'm exhaling, not holding my breath and trying to say more, but only speaking when I have something to exhale. And that has kept my nervous system in a parasympathetic state. So that's one of my simple practices that will help you to be in tune and in touch with your body and what you're experiencing and what your body needs. Because in a parasympathetic state is where experience deep healing, rest, your body can repair itself. You can be present, which means you can take in more information. When we're in a sympathetic state, like if you're being chased by a lion, you're not thinking about what you're making for dinner. that evening,
Not
or
unless you're an
your
expert.
or your next Instagram post.
Yeah.
You are just in survival, hyper vigilant, running through your life. So, yeah, a baby step is that. And then you want to go deeper and experience intentionally revving up your system and then releasing it. Then, yeah, doing some more intense breathing, holotropic breath work, or Wim Hof. All of those help to support and expand the immune system. You can look into TRE. If you Google it, there's videos on YouTube. You can find someone that could guide you through it, in your area, or do it over Zoom with you. But TRE, tension and trauma release exercises, is a very simple, easy practice that once you're guided through it a few times, you know how to do it yourself. And you can use that at any time to release the overwhelm.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And then, and so those are like stuff that I'd say support the body. Can't forget about the monkey mind, because we do need both. And so when you are spinning in thought, when something is keeping you up at night, you have a decision to make, you don't know what to do, and you're just having this inner dialogue in your head, trying to figure it out. Take it out of your head and onto paper. What I call doing like a journal dump. Like if you were transcribing what was coming through. It's not going to be full sentences or very articulate. It's probably going to be all different parts of you having something to say about it. Your inner critic saying, yeah, but you can't do it. And what if you fail? And, your ego saying, like, I have to do it. I have to be the best. And your emotions, your inner child, as I call it, saying, I'm scared. Right? So there's like many different voices and parts of us, and they conflict, which is why we can't make sense of things when they're just in our head, which is why, we get loopy. We get stuck in loops up there because everyone's fighting to be the one that you hear. So when you dump it out on paper, just stream of consciousness, just like I said, like as if you were transcribing what was going on, you can then go back and read it, identify the parts that you really need to listen to. And those parts are your emotions, your energy and motion. It's going to be where you say, I'm sad, or I'm anxious, or I don't know that I can handle this anymore. Anywhere where it reconnects you to the body. We're looking to have a body-mind connection.
Yeah.
So that it's not just you figuring it out in your head, but you're coming from whole thinking of like acknowledging the body's wisdom and messages as well, called your intuition. And you're not just beating everything down with logic. So it takes listening to whatever sensation, whatever experience is there, and saying, I can be with this. I can picture a little boy or a little girl, my younger self, coming into a room right now. And that's the part of me that's saying, I'm anxious, I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm angry. And think about what you would need to do to nurture that child. That's what you need to do for yourself. So anyway, I'm definitely getting down a rabbit hole here of
I love this rabbit hole
of what Training Camp for the Soul really gives you. Training camp, like mastery in, practice in. I mean, that's what it is. Like Training Camp for the Soul. The reason the word training camp is in there is because it's a container. 90 days where you get to continue to practice and develop these capacities. But yeah, so I know I'm giving some basic tools, and then I'm like, I'm definitely going down here where people.
We love rabbit holes.
I don't know that I could do this. I don't know that I could do this on my own. And if you feel that way, then realize You don't need to do it on your own.
Exactly.
And you don't need to figure it, reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
You can have what you want if you allow yourself to be guided by someone who already has what you want. But yeah, so I'd say get out of your head, dump it on paper, observe it as if you're reading someone else, like as if it's your best friend that just came to you complaining or stating all this, and listen from curiosity, love, and compassion to all parts of yourself. See if you can access moving some energy and following your heart from there.
I love that. And what you said so perfectly there was really how I believe this work, what this work does, which is ultimately it ends up changing the game. It's a whole new game when you do the work. And like this whole work thing can be like, so I like to change it up for love, right? Do the love, right? Give yourself love, which looks like fighting for your ability to have a higher and more full experience of life. That is what I feel.
I call it take back your power.
Yes.
Take back our power.
Yes.
Take back that pen.
Yes. Guys,
you are all living out the movie of your life. And for most of us, it's a script that we didn't choose, that we inherited. Sometimes for generations and generations. Are you going to be the one to finally break that generational pattern? And because you're playing it out. I'm sure we all could see where it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, I'm like my mother or my grandfather, or you could see it in your families. And all that's happening is you are playing out the script.
Yes.
And you are the producer. You're the director. You're the main actor. You're the writer. You're always reinforcing. We are always reinforcing the script. We're always writing it into our life again and again when we say it. Like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not smart enough. I can't do that. I'm not strong enough. I can't do that. Yeah, I want love, but I'm afraid that he's going to, I'm afraid of getting hurt. So we're constantly reinforcing. So you are the writer. And taking back your power is recognizing that you're also the editor. And that's what I teach people.
Yes.
How to recognize that you're the editor too. That you have a say. You no longer have to live in survival, this script. Getting on stage, playing a role that you don't want to play. That you get to build your capacity to know that you can play any role you want. And then create the life that you desire.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's really interesting too, because in what you were just saying and taking your power back, right? And realizing you're the editor, I feel that point is so important, right? Because you can go experience a new movie, right? Interact with psychedelics. And for me, I know for so long when I interacted with them, I felt like, well, I took it and now it's up to God, basically. And there was nothing I could do about it. But when you realize you're the editor, you can then alter your experiences, right? Say if you start feeling anxiety or something like that, or a feeling, let's just say a feeling, right? Without even putting a label on it. Instead of distracting yourself, like I did plenty of times during psychedelic journeys by, interacting with cannabis or talking a lot or trying to do any of the myriad of things I normally do sober, just a little bit worse because now I'm tripping and under the influence of plant medicines. You can then realize you can alter that and just take 5 minutes. In my experience, and I think you have even better stats than this, but 5 minutes of really feeling a feeling, for me, it's usually gone. Like in way of a burp, in way of like a passing of energy of some sort. And then I feel better on the other side. And one of the things that was a huge aha moment for me was realizing, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I would cry over something. And I remember this. And when I was done crying, it's not like the problem went away, right? It's not like I got the toy I wanted or whatever. And I felt better on the other side of it still. So I had developed this unconscious belief that in order to feel better, whatever was there had to get fixed, right? And my version of fixing it was, flipping the script, doing the opposite of it. So if I feel anxious, I have to go do something that makes me feel not anxious, right? When in reality, all I had to do, and this is a big way of taking my power back, was just feel the feeling and release it and realize, oh, that feeling wasn't me. I'm not an anxious person. I just experienced a quick feeling of what I could call anxiety in that situation. And one of the things you mentioned right when you were talking was connecting to the heart. And this is a subject that you hear a lot about in psychedelics, right? You hear a lot about this connection to your heart, MDMA being a heart opener. I'd love to hear your experience of, what being heart open feels like in general, right? For people to be able to quantify it. And then also how psychedelics may or may not have helped you connect to your heart in your journey.
Yeah, for sure. Because I have done sassafras, mushrooms, ayahuasca, DMT. I've had my share.
Yeah.
And they've all, in some way or another, connected me to my heart. So what is the feeling like outside of psychedelics? It's vulnerable. It's just what's in your heart, what's there right now. Whatever working on or dealing, I get to connect. I get to stop talking and start listening to how I feel, just what I think about it. I just had a call with a woman that I'm looking to hire as my sex therapist. There's a vulnerable share. My partner and I have good sex, and we want it to be what we've never experienced before. Because most of us are having patriarchal sex.
Yeah, they're masturbating with someone else's body.
Yeah, and it's just what we were all programmed for. Like we just all have that in us, the patriarchy. And so she asked me to share a lot. So first I was talking, blah, blah, blah. Here's the story. Here's where we've come from. Here's what we've done. Da 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 da. And she goes, okay, cool. I think I got the world of it. Now I'm curious, like, how does that feel for you? And the second she said that, I just started crying. I felt it. I felt the heartache, the deep desire that I have for more than just sex, right? For like divine union, for that love making that like I don't even know what it looks like. And so it wasn't like it was sad, and it felt a little heavy and stuck in my throat, like I could choke on like how much. But I don't translate that as like bad. I shouldn't feel that. It's like that's how much I want it. Speaking of a child who really wants a toy, don't they cry because they want it that bad? They want that ice cream that bad that they cry for it. And so to me, it's just like there's such a desire for it. So it's vulnerable, it's raw, and it's courageous. Following your heart, if you're not experiencing some kind of jolt of like fear there, then you're probably not quite following your heart yet. You're just playing it safe.
Yeah, you're logicking it.
Following your heart is edgy because it's a desire that has not been fulfilled yet. And if it's not been fulfilled yet, it's because you don't know how to fulfill it. If you did, you'd already be there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? And so like your deepest heart desires should rock your boat, should feel edgy, should feel like it's going to take courage for me to take this step. Because you're admitting, and this is the vulnerability, you're admitting to something that you want so badly that by admitting it, you're actually opening up the possibility for it. And then what if it doesn't happen? I just gave you my heart. You've heard the music. I just gave you my heart. And what if it doesn't happen? But that's what it takes, is that level of heart openness, of vulnerability, of just like, I'm willing to put it out there and trust. And so it requires developing that trust, developing that courage, developing the ability to know that, developing your capacity to be with any sensation. Because sometimes you're not going to get what your heart puts out and desires. And all that's going to happen next is it's going to create some sensation in your body. Like heartbreak doesn't literally mean your heart breaks and you don't die.
Yeah.
But sensation in the body. And so when you build your capacity, your resiliency to be with any sensation, then you know that you can speak your heart more and more. Because all that's going to happen is either you're not, and it's going to create some sensation, and you're like, oh, I can be with that sensation. So, okay, let's do this.
Mm.
And that's where you start to move out of the game of survival and more like, oh, I can speak my heart. I can play in that arena. Play. This is what we all were like when we were kids. You want to learn about living from your heart and playing, vulnerability? Watch a kid that has not been stunted in that. Watch a 4-year-old. They get sad, they get upset, they get frustrated. They feel it, right? If no one stunts it or stops them, they move through that cry in about 90 seconds, they say. There's been studies on this. Harvard even has done studies on when there's no restriction or fear or rejection, that you can move through an emotion in 90 seconds. And for the most part, when it takes them longer, it's because you're not listening to them and you're trying to fix it. But they'll move through the emotion and then they just want to go play. And play for the sake of play. They don't, whether they win or lose, they are just following what their heart desires next. And it may be, I want to play with trucks. And then 2 minutes later, I want to go outside and ride my bike. And 2 minutes later, it's, we have something, we have, they're just like, I want. And when you say no to something, like you can have ice cream after dinner. No! What do? They feel the rejection of their heart's desire. Feel that sensation. And they express it with a cry. And if you don't try and fix them, you just say, okay, yeah, cry it out. They will. And then you get those kids like my niece who are so strong-willed, and then they'll ask you again, and they'll ask you again, and they'll ask you again. And she's a future CEO.
Yeah,
she's
yeah, definitely.
That has so much emotional resiliency that she's just willing to like keep like speaking her heart. Like, I still want this, and I can handle you saying no to me again, and I still want this, and she can handle it. But that's it. That is like living from your heart. That's what it looks like. So pay attention to what kids do and get that your access to it is through your own inner child. It's through feeling all the things that you're afraid to feel. As soon as you feel those, you want to go create and play again, which means you want to live in your heart again.
I'm so glad I asked because, I feel as though the biggest challenge for me connecting to my heart, and psychedelics in part taught me this, is that it's not logical, right? Like nothing about the heart is logical. And that was one of the most challenging things as someone who was living in their mind constantly. It's like I was using the number one mind, the left brain, for everything. And so the heart was just like, that doesn't make any sense. Logically, we're not going to go with that. And then I ended up rejecting it and falling into that and having some very interesting psychedelic experiences where I was white knuckling the whole time because I was refusing to connect to that heart, which was calling me. And that was just so powerful. And so, Anat, this has been so much fun. We've got to go down so many amazing rabbit holes together and explore all the other parts that I've yet to be able to really dive into on this show. And I'm so excited for people to hear this because this is the side that I really feel is not being talked about enough. And so I want to first thank you for, really being this light, right? For being a person who is so passionate about putting this teaching out there and about showing people how it feels to really connect to themselves. And like we talked about in the show, how amazing your plant medicine experiences can be when you do the other stuff, right? When you have your side dishes, right? And all these other PEEK things.
When you know yourself as medicine.
Yes, exactly.
Drink your own medicine. Get high off your own supply. That's breathwork, baby.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And, where can I send people to learn more about you, to learn more about Training Camp for the Soul? And if you have the date handy, when does the next group start for Training Camp for the Soul?
Yeah, awesome. Well, if people are curious about Training Camp for the Soul and what our offerings are, you can go to trainingcampforthesoul.com. Our next 90-day kicks off September 9th, and we have a retreat end of October. And if you're looking to connect with me, best place is Instagram. I DM every new follower because I want to get to know you. I don't want you just following me. I want to get curious, get to know why you're following me and how I can support you. So if you want to have a conversation with me, that's the place to do it.
Hell yeah. And, I have a question that I love asking people, very similar to Highly Optimized. I like doing the last question. And that question is this: if someone listening was just swayed by you to experience psychedelic medicines for the first time, what one piece of advice would you share with them to allow them to have the smoothest experience possible?
Don't do it.
No.
All kidding and not kidding. I would really check in and ask them how much do they know themselves and have they explored their own consciousness. Again, I really want people to approach plant medicine sacredly, not as something to use, something to work with. So there's a respect and an honor to have for it there. If you went into a surgery room and you just picked up one of the, tools and you started cutting into yourself, probably wouldn't do as well as someone who's trained, who's a doctor, who knows himself, as knowing how to work with it. And so do that out of respect, not only to the medicine and the amazing gifts that it has as a tool, but to your own self. Do yourself that service, your body, your mind, your soul, and explore it on your own. Get to know your medicine.
I agree with that 1000%. And guys, as I stated in the intro, having people on this show who can speak to the importance of doing the work separate from the PEAK plant experiences we all know and love is paramount for me. Not only do these teachings and insights that Anat spoke to today allow for the entire scope of plant medicines to become more powerful, but it also increases the ability of each of us to become more powerful in our lives as a whole. Plant medicines are incredible for increasing awareness, yet awareness without action can lead us to the feeling of spinning our wheels, which will inevitably lead to frustration, anxiety, and a host of other clues that something is not landing right within us. If you listened to this conversation and felt called to dive in deeper with Anat, then please do yourselves all a favor in making that conscious action to reach out to her sooner than later, as I can promise you as someone who has worked with her, that the aspects of yourself you can unlock with her guidance will launch your body, mind, and spirit to a whole new level. And also, while I've got your ear, it would be such a huge gift for me if anyone who is loving the show could hop over to iTunes and leave ratings and reviews for the show. My goal with the show is to be able to spread this new take on psychedelics to the world at large. And by you helping me in that mission, we're able to co-create that dream faster than if we were alone. Anat, thank you once again for this amazing conversation and for doing the work to understand those aspects of yourself and the self, and most importantly, for being you. I am excited for the next time we can connect, and until that time, may your journey be smooth and full of light. Aho.